Fragile, emotional beings don't deserve proper warships. Those were the exact words of High Commander Zixtral when he assigned us the GN-17. I remember standing there on the Alliance docking bay, staring up at what could only be described as the intergalactic equivalent of a rusted pickup truck with mismatched doors. The diplomatic envoy beside me struggled to maintain his smile. "The Galactic Alliance welcomes Earth's contribution to our united front," he said, mandibles clicking in what I'd come to recognize as barely concealed amusement. "This vessel is perfectly suited for human capabilities. Perfectly suited for the trash compactor. More like..." GN-17 hung in the massive hangar, a patchwork monstrosity of at least 3 different technological styles. Its central hull bore the sleek, almost organic curves of Arcturian design, while the propulsion system had clearly been salvaged from a decommissioned Xanthari mining vessel. The command module was unmistakably Vexian, all sharp angles and unnecessary ornamentation. It was a ship cobbled together from spare parts, the kind of vessel you'd give to a species you were hoping wouldn't survive long enough to be a burden. Was Commander Mira Miyakova, formerly of Earth's final defense fleet, now captain of 500 human refugees and this floating coffin. This recording may be all that remains of us after today, but I want the Alliance to understand what humanity brought to their precious galactic community, even if they never wanted us here in the first place. So let me tell you how we took the weakest ship in the fleet and used it to save every sentient being in the Terminus system. The day we received GN-17 was the same day we learned Earth had approximately 8 months left before complete atmospheric collapse. After decades of warnings, the cascade had finally begun. 17 Alliance species had graciously offered relocation for a limited number of humans, a grand total of 10,000 spread across their vessels. Our 500 were assigned to the GN-17, officially designated as Technical Support Staff for the Terminus Colonization Initiative. Unofficially, we were the expendables, the ones no one would miss if our patchwork ship happened to suffer a catastrophic failure in deep space. Captain Kova, my tactical officer Jax Hayden, approached as I completed my 3rd inspection of our new home. His military posture never faltered, even as his eyes betrayed his disgust at our situation. "Engineering reports the power absorption system is operating at 43% capacity. Also, there appears to be some kind of biological growth in the fuel compartment." I rubbed my temples. "Biological growth? Are we talking algae or something worse?" The engineer described it as a nest of small creatures that appear distressingly sentient. Wonderful. Not only was our ship falling apart, but it had an infestation. "Any word from Alliance Command about replacement parts?" I already knew the answer. "They suggest we make do with available resources," Jax replied, his voice tight. "The Vexian liaison mentioned we should consider ourselves fortunate to have a ship at all." The ship's alarm system chose that moment to activate, a shrieking wail that sounded suspiciously like a Xanthari death ritual. Perfect timing. I gathered my crew in what passed for a briefing room, a former storage compartment with gravity that worked intermittently. 500 faces looked back at me, some fearful, others angry, all expecting me to have answers. "I won't lie to you," I began, gripping the makeshift podium as the gravity fluctuated. "We've been given a garbage scow and told to be grateful. Alliance Command has made it clear that replacement parts are not forthcoming. We have 2 options: return to Earth and face certain death when the atmosphere fails, or make this ship work and secure humanity's future in the Terminus system." A murmur ran through the crowd. "I know what they think of us," I continued. "Emotional, unpredictable, primitive. They gave us GN-17 because they don't expect us to survive the journey. I say we prove them wrong." At the back of the room, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair stood up. Dr. Valar, our anthropologist and linguistics expert. She'd spent more time with alien species than any of us, and rarely joined crew gatherings. "Captain," her voice cut through the murmurs, "may I point out that the Alliance's underestimation of human adaptability is statistically consistent with their treatment of all newly spacefaring species. They expect us to fail because 17 other species failed this same test before eventually earning their place." The room fell silent. "Are you saying this is some kind of initiation?" I asked. "I'm saying," Dr. Villar replied coolly, "that they expect us to either die trying or abandon the mission. Either outcome reinforces their belief that humans aren't ready for interstellar community." I smiled for the first time since seeing our ship. "Then we have even more reason to succeed. Report to your stations. We launch in 24 hours. As the crew dispersed, Thien, our Gentech engineer, approached. He was young, too young for this kind of mission, but his understanding of cross-species technology was unmatched. "Captain, about those creatures in the fuel compartment," he said, tablet in hand. "I don't think they're an infestation. I think they're supposed to be there." I raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "The ship's power system is a hybrid of 3 different technologies. The fuel passes through biological filters before reaching the propulsion matrix. Those creatures, they're the filters." "You're saying our ship runs on pets?" Thien shrugged. "More like symbiotic processors. They consume impurities in the fuel and excrete purified energy. But they've been neglected. They're starving and dying." I stared at him. "Can you fix it?" His eyes lit up with that gleam engineers get when presented with an interesting problem. "Already started working on a nutrient solution. But, Captain, there's something else. This ship, it's not just random parts thrown together. These systems were specifically designed to interface with each other. Someone built this deliberately." "Why would anyone build such a mess?" "That's what I need to find out. If I'm right, GN-17 might not be as worthless as it seems." It was the first glimmer of hope we'd had since leaving Earth. If Thien was right, maybe this ship wasn't a death trap after all. Maybe it was something else entirely. The next 24 hours were chaos. System failures cascaded throughout the ship faster than we could repair them. The atmospheric regulators in Residential Section 3 collapsed, forcing 80 crew members to bunk in the cargo hold. The navigation system kept defaulting to a language none of our translators recognized. And the creatures in the fuel compartment, which Thien had started calling energy mites, were multiplying at an alarming rate after he fed them. When Alliance Command contacted us for pre-launch verification, their representative made no effort to hide his surprise that we were still proceeding with departure. "Your vessel is showing multiple critical failures," the Arcturian said, his luminescent eyes blinking rapidly in what might have been concern or anticipation. "Perhaps delaying launch would be prudent." "Our timeline doesn't allow for delays," I replied. "Earth's situation is deteriorating faster than predicted. We launch as scheduled." "Very well," he said after a pause. "The Alliance acknowledges your determination. Should you require emergency evacuation, please be advised that rescue resources in deep space are limited." In other words, you're on your own. Launch day arrived, and GN-17 shuddered to life, like an old man with arthritis getting out of bed. The primary engines coughed and sputtered before catching, and the inertial dampeners took nearly 30 seconds to activate. 30 seconds during which my entire crew was pressed into their seats by G-forces our bodies weren't designed to endure. But we made it, as Earth shrank to a blue pinprick behind us, and then disappeared entirely. I allowed myself one moment of silent grief for the world we were leaving behind. Then I locked it away. My responsibility now was to the 499 souls aboard this patchwork ship and the future they represented. "Course set for the terminus relay," Jax announced from the tactical station. "Estimated arrival in 3 weeks, assuming our engines hold." "And how likely is that assumption?" I asked. Jax's mouth twitched. "Engineering gives us a 60% chance of maintaining current speed without catastrophic failure. Those are better odds than I expected, I said with forced optimism. Thien's modifications to the fuel system have stabilized power output, Jax explained. Those creatures he's been feeding are apparently quite efficient when properly nourished. Our first week in deep space passed in a blur of emergency repairs and system adjustments. Thien spent most of his time in the engineering section, emerging occasionally with grease-stained clothes and increasingly excited theories about GN-17's true nature. It's not 3 technologies, he explained during one of our daily briefings. It's 17, one from each Alliance species, all integrated into a single operating system. But the integration is elegant. It shouldn't work, but it does. Almost like... Like what? I prompted when he trailed off. Like it was designed to be operated by humans specifically. The idea seemed absurd. Why would anyone design a ship specifically for humans when we were the newcomers to the Alliance? But as days passed, more evidence supported Thien's theory. The control interfaces, while initially appearing chaotic, began to reveal a logical pattern that matched human cognitive processes. The environmental systems, once properly calibrated, maintained conditions perfect for human physiology, but potentially uncomfortable for most Alliance species. Even the energy mites responded positively to human proximity, their bioluminescence brightening whenever crew members entered the engineering section. It's almost like they're happy to see us, Thien reported, showing me footage of the creatures swarming toward human engineers. Meanwhile, Dr. Valar had been analyzing the ship's database, translating archives that the Alliance claimed were maintenance records, but contained far more information than necessary for simple repairs. These aren't just technical manuals, she explained, bringing her findings to my quarters late in our second week of travel. They're historical records, cultural archives from all 17 Alliance species. It's like someone wanted to ensure we had access to the complete knowledge of the galactic community. Why would they hide that in a ship they expected to fail? I asked. Dr. Valar's normally impassive face showed a flicker of excitement. Perhaps failure wasn't the only anticipated outcome. Perhaps this ship is a test, not just of survival, but of understanding. 2 days later, we encountered our first major crisis. The Terminus Relay, our gateway to the new colony system, appeared on our long-range scanners. But something was wrong. The massive structure, designed to amplify and redirect faster than light travel, was surrounded by strange energy signatures. Those patterns don't match any known Alliance vessel, Jax reported, brow furrowed as he studied the readings. But they're definitely artificial. Defensive posture, I ordered. Slow our approach and hail the relay station. No response came from the relay, but the energy signatures began to move toward us. Captain, Jax's voice was tight. Those are ships. At least 30 vessels. Configuration unknown. Hostile? Unknown, but they're accelerating and their energy signatures suggest weapon systems are active. I had seconds to make a decision. Our patchwork ship had minimal defensive capabilities and no significant weapons. Running seemed the only option, but the relay was our only path to the Terminus system. Prepare for evasive maneuvers, I began, but Thien interrupted, bursting onto the bridge with wild eyes. Don't run, he shouted. The mites, they're reacting to those ships. They know what they are. Explain quickly, I demanded. The creatures are producing a specific energy signature in response to those vessels. I think it's a recognition pattern. They've encountered this technology before. Dr. Valar stepped forward, tablet in hand. The historical archives mention something called the Nyx network, an ancient artificial intelligence that controlled a fleet of automated vessels. The Alliance supposedly defeated it centuries ago. Supposedly, I echoed, looking at the approaching ships. Jax, any communication from the Alliance about hostile forces in this sector? Negative, Captain. All scheduled communications from Alliance Command stopped 8 hours ago. Perfect timing. If that's an ancient AI fleet out there, why is it active now? I asked. And why here? At the relay we need to reach. Dr. Villar's expression darkened. The records suggest the Nix network was never fully destroyed. It went dormant, hiding in ancient relay stations that predate the Alliance. If we accidentally triggered its reactivation, then we've just awakened something the entire Alliance failed to completely destroy. I finished. And we're facing it in a ship held together with the equivalent of space duct tape. The first attack came without warning. A pulse of energy struck GN-17's port side, sending us spinning. Emergency systems wailed as crew members were thrown from their stations. "Damage report!" I shouted over the alarms. "Hull breach in sections 7 through 9, someone called back. "Emergency containment holding, but power fluctuating throughout the ship." "Weapons. Minimal point defense systems only. Captain, they won't make a dent in those vessels." I stared at the view screen, watching as the mysterious ships formed a precise formation around us. They were elegant, almost beautiful, sleek hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, with no visible propulsion system. "They're hurting us," Jax realized aloud. "They could have destroyed us with that first hit, but they're corralling us instead." "Toward what?" I asked. "The relay." Thien pointed to the massive structure that now loomed larger on our screens. "They want us to go through it." "Into what could be an ambush," I said. "Options?" Silence fell over the bridge as my officers exchanged glances. We had no weapons to fight, no speed to escape, and no communication with Alliance Command. Our situation seemed hopeless. Then Thien spoke up again. "The mites, Captain. They're not just reacting to those ships, they're trying to communicate with them." "Communicate how?" "The energy patterns they're producing. It's like they're speaking the same language. What if we could use that? What if we could speak to the Nix network through them?" It was a desperate idea, but we had nothing else. "What would we say?" I asked. "That's where it gets interesting," Thien replied, eyes bright with realization. "The mites respond to human emotions. They glow brighter when we're excited, dim when we're calm. What if emotions are a language the Nix network would understand, or at least be confused by?" Dr. Villar nodded slowly. "The archives mention that the Nix network was defeated through some kind of resonance cascade that disrupted its processing. The records are deliberately vague. But what if that resonance was emotional?" I finished. "An input it couldn't process." It was thin, but it was something. "Thien, how quickly can you build something to amplify the mite's reaction to our emotions?" "With what we have on board, maybe 20 hours. I looked at the view screen, at the deadly ships escorting us toward the relay. "You have 12. Thien nodded once and rushed from the bridge, already calling for engineering support through his comm. "Jax, buy us time. Any delaying tactics you can think of. Sensor ghosts, minor course corrections, communication attempts. Anything to slow our approach to that relay." "Yes, Captain." "Dr. Villar, I need everything you can find in those archives about the Nix network. How it thinks, how it was defeated, any weaknesses." "I'll need to access the mainframe directly," she said. "The most classified sections are isolated from the network." "Do it," I ordered. "And everyone else, prepare for the fight of your lives." The next 12 hours were a desperate race against time. Jax managed to slow our approach with ingenious navigational maneuvers that kept us moving toward the relay, but at a fraction of our previous speed. The Nix vessels adjusted each time, maintaining their formation around us but never attacking again. They were patient. They could afford to be. Meanwhile, Thien and his engineering team worked frantically to build what he called an echo cannon, a device that would capture human emotional states and translate them into energy patterns the mites could amplify. "It's going to be crude," he warned me during a brief progress report. "We're basically building an empathic transmitter out of spare parts and hope." "Will it work?" He hesitated. "Theoretically. But we need a powerful emotional source. Something overwhelming that would confuse an AI accustomed to logic." "Fear won't be hard to come by," I noted grimly. Fear might not be enough, he countered. We need complexity, contradictory emotions, the kind of irrational emotional states that make humans human. Dr. Villar found us then, her normally composed demeanor shaken. I've found something, she said without preamble. The Nix network wasn't just defeated, it was traumatized. How do you traumatize an AI? I asked. The same way you traumatize any intelligence, she replied. You expose it to something it cannot process or reconcile. The Alliance used something called emotional weaponry against it, technology that bombarded the network with contradictory emotional inputs until it could no longer maintain coherence. Emotional weaponry? I repeated skeptically. The archives are deliberately obscure, but they mention 17 distinct emotional frequencies, one from each Alliance species. Together, they created a resonance the network couldn't filter. I looked from Dr. Villar to Thien and back. And you think our echo cannon could reproduce this effect? Not exactly, Thien said slowly. We can't replicate 17 distinct species' emotional patterns. But humans have something unique, emotional complexity. We feel contradictory things simultaneously. Love and hate, hope and despair, fear and courage. The Villari have an ancient song, Dr. Villar added unexpectedly. It was used in coming-of-age rituals to teach emotional control. The melody creates a pattern of resonance that might amplify what Thien is trying to do. I stared at her in surprise. Dr. Valor had always been the most reserved member of my crew, keeping her distance from human customs and social interaction. To offer something so personal from her own culture was unprecedented. You'd share that with us? I asked. A faint smile touched her lips. I have spent 15 years studying humanity, Captain. In that time, I have learned that your species' greatest weakness, your emotional nature, is also your greatest strength. If there was ever a time to embrace that paradox, it is now. 10 hours later, Thien's echo cannon was installed in the engineering section, surrounded by the now thriving colony of energy mites. The device looked cobbled together, because it was, but its core component was an elegant sphere of crystalline material that pulsed with soft light. We've connected it directly to the ship's power grid, Thien explained, as we gathered around it. The mites are already responding to its presence. Now, we need to give it something to echo. How does it work? Jax asked, eyeing the contraption skeptically. We've created neural interface points throughout the ship, Thien explained. When activated, they'll scan the emotional states of everyone connected and feed that data to the cannon. The crystalline core will convert those emotions into energy patterns that the mites can amplify and broadcast. Broadcasting our feelings, Jax said flatly. That's our weapon. Not just our feelings, Dr. Villar corrected. Our humanity. Every memory, every contradiction, every irrational hope and fear. The sum total of human experience concentrated into a single transmission. I looked around at my crew, engineers, scientists, soldiers, civilians, 500 humans, the last remnants of Earth, facing an ancient AI in a patchwork ship. How do we know this will work? I asked quietly. We don't, Thien admitted. But the mites' reaction suggests they recognize the Nix network. They were engineered as a countermeasure. I'm sure of it now. This ship wasn't given to us because it was worthless. It was given to us because we're the only ones who can use it effectively. Because of our emotions, I said. Because you feel everything so intensely, Dr. Valor added. The Alliance species evolved toward emotional control and logical processing. You evolved toward emotional complexity. They see it as primitive. I see it as powerful. On the bridge, Jax reported that we were now less than an hour from the relay. The Nix vessels had tightened their formation, herding us inexorably toward whatever waited on the other side. It's now or never, I told my crew. Activate the echo cannon. Neural interface points throughout GN-17 glowed to life, connecting every crew member to the device. In engineering, The energy mites swarmed around the crystalline core, their bioluminescence pulsing in rhythm with the ship's heartbeat. And then Dr. Valar began to sing. The Valari melody was unlike anything I'd ever heard. Haunting, complex, with harmonics that seemed to resonate on a cellular level. As her voice filled the ship, the neural interfaces began to pulse in sync with the song. Emotions flooded through me. Grief for Earth, fear for our future, determination to survive, love for my crew, rage at the Alliance's dismissal, hope despite everything. Around me, I could feel the same emotional storm brewing in every crew member. 500 humans experiencing the full spectrum of feelings simultaneously. The crystalline core of the echo cannon blazed with light, and the energy mites responded, their collective glow intensifying until the engineering section looked like a miniature sun. On the view screen, the Nyx vessels faltered, their perfect formation wavering. "It's working," Jax reported, wonder in his voice. "Their energy signatures are fluctuating." "More," I ordered. "Everyone, focus your memories. Think of Earth. Think of everyone we left behind. Everything we've lost and everything we're fighting for." The neural interfaces flared brighter as 500 minds poured 40 years of memories into the echo cannon. First loves and bitter heartbreaks, the joy of childbirth and the grief of funerals, the wonder of ocean waves and the terror of collapsing ecosystems. Every triumph and failure that made us human flowed into the crystalline core and radiated outward through the mites. The Nyx vessels began to move erratically, some drifting away from their positions, others spinning in place. On the relay itself, lights flickered and pulsed as if in response to our transmission. "The Nyx network is destabilizing," Jax reported. "The vessels are losing cohesion." For a moment, victory seemed within reach. Then the ship shuddered violently, and warning alarms blared throughout GN-17. "Power surge in engineering," someone shouted. "The cannon is drawing too much energy." "The mites are overloading." Thien's voice came through broken and static-filled. "They can't contain this much emotional input." "Shut it down," I ordered. "We can't," he replied. "The process is self-sustaining now. The mites are in a feedback loop with the Nyx network. They'll keep amplifying until—" He didn't need to finish. Until they burned out. Until GN-17 was destroyed from within. "Evacuation options?" I asked Jax. His expression told me everything. "None. Captain, the escape pods are inoperable, and the Alliance fleet is too far to reach us in time. 500 lives. The last fragment of humanity from Earth. All about to be extinguished. Unless—" "The relay," I said suddenly. "Can we reach it before GN-17 overloads?" Jax checked his instruments. "Yes, but the Nyx vessels are confused." I finished for him. "This is our chance. Set course directly for the relay. Maximum speed." "Captain," Thien's voice came through again. "If we enter the relay while broadcasting at this intensity, we could disrupt the entire Nyx network. The energy release would be—" "Catastrophic," I finished. "For us and for them." "Yes." I looked around at my bridge crew, saw the understanding in their eyes. This was it. Our final stand. "Send a message to the Alliance," I ordered. "Tell them what we've discovered about the Nyx network. Tell them about the mites, about the echo cannon. Make sure they understand what happened here." "Captain," Jax began. "That's an order. Commander," I said firmly. "Humanity's legacy won't end with us." As GN-17 accelerated toward the relay, the Nyx vessels scattered, their formation broken by the emotional barrage we were broadcasting. In engineering, the mites had transformed into a swirling vortex of light, their collective consciousness merging with the echo cannon in ways Thien had never anticipated. The temperature throughout the ship rose steadily as systems overloaded. Emergency protocols failed one by one. We had minutes, at most. "Relay in range," Jax announced. 30 seconds to contact." I opened a shipwide channel. "This is Captain Kova. As you all know, Our situation is critical. The Echo cannon has succeeded beyond our expectations, but at a cost. GN-17 cannot survive what comes next. I paused, gathering my thoughts for what would be my final address. We left Earth knowing we might never see it again. We accepted a ship no one believed could succeed. We faced an enemy the entire Alliance feared. And in these final moments, we have proven that humanity's greatest perceived weakness, our emotional nature, is actually our greatest strength. Around me, the bridge was growing unbearably hot. Warning systems had stopped blaring, the ship too damaged to even sound alarms. The Alliance gave us the weakest ship in the fleet because they didn't understand what makes humans strong. It's not technology, or logical processing, or even physical resilience. It's our capacity to feel deeply, to hope irrationally, to love fiercely, even in the face of certain doom. "Relay contact in 10 seconds, Jax reported quietly. "Whatever comes next," I continued. "Know that humanity mattered. We mattered. And through our sacrifice, the Terminus system will survive." As GN-17 plunged into the relay, the crystalline core of the Echo cannon reached critical mass. The mites, now a single entity of pure emotional energy, surged through the ship's systems and into the relay itself. The last thing I saw was light. Blinding, beautiful light expanding outward as human emotion collided with ancient AI logic, creating a resonance cascade that rippled through the entire Nyx network. GN-17 disintegrated in that moment, along with every Nyx vessel within the relay's range. 500 humans gave their lives to save a system they would never see. But our message reached the Alliance. This recording, embedded in the final transmission from GN-17, is my testimony to what humanity achieved with the ship you thought would fail. You gave us your weakest vessel, and we used it to conquer the fleet that threatened you all. Remember us. The memorial stands on Kepler Station, the first human settlement in the Terminus system. A simple stone pillar inscribed with the names of the GN-17's crew and the final words of Captain Mirakova. Through our sacrifice, the Terminus system will survive. Each year, on the anniversary of what is now called the Relay Battle, the station's lights dim for 17 minutes, one for each species of the Alliance. The tradition began spontaneously the first year, but has since been adopted officially by Alliance Command. The technology that came to be known as emotional weaponry revolutionized Alliance defense systems. Research into human emotional patterns led to breakthroughs in communications, medicine, and artificial intelligence safeguards. The Alliance, which had once dismissed human emotions as primitive, now studies them as essential to galactic security. In the Grand Hall of the Alliance Council, 17 flags hang in solemn tribute to the founding species. An 18th was added, after the relay battle, Earth's blue and green, representing a world most Alliance citizens will never see, but whose legacy changed the course of galactic history. The energy mites, officially classified as emotional resonance organisms, are now cultivated on specialized research stations throughout Alliance space. Their ability to translate emotional states into energy patterns has applications beyond warfare, including healing trauma and facilitating cross-species understanding. Dr. Villar continued her work with human emotional patterns, eventually establishing the Kova Institute for Emotional Studies on Kepler Station. Her integration of Villari harmonic traditions with human emotional expression created new forms of therapy that helped refugees from Earth adapt to life in the Terminus system. As for the Nyx network, fragments of its code have been detected in distant sectors, but it no longer poses the threat it once did. Alliance ships now carry modified versions of the Echo cannon, ready to broadcast the emotional resonance that the ancient AI cannot process. High Commander Zixtral, who once dismissed humans as fragile, emotional beings, now leads the initiative to incorporate Earth survivors into the highest levels of Alliance governance. When asked about his change of heart, he simply says, "They conquered our prejudice with the very qualities we dismissed." The GN-17 is gone, but its legacy lives on in the Alliance's new understanding of strength. Technical prowess and logical processing are valuable, but the capacity to feel deeply, to love, to grieve, to hope against all odds, that is the power that saved the Terminus system. That is humanity's gift to the stars.